All right, well, sticking in the SEC East, you want to talk about a fan base and a team and a program all to rise with a new coach. Let's kick it on down to Gainesville, where Billy Napier can basically do no wrong at this point. He's only been there 2 months, and night and day, the recruiting class, went from complete garbage, which was in part his doing, getting rid of some guys that maybe he didn't feel comfortable with, didn't fit into the system, or whatever the reasons are. But that thing was in shambles. People were getting him mocked left and right. And what did I say? I said, hey, don't judge him on this. Judge him on what he's going to do, because if Billy Napier were to take every commit that Dan Mullen had, regardless of whether they fit his culture, his program, his system, whatever, and it was just a poor fit, and he was doing it for the recruiting rankings and the good publicity, in a year or two, those guys are leaving anyway in the transfer era. So he had to prioritize players that he believed in, and that I'm not trying to trash the guys that left, because a lot of those guys that left went to premier programs, but a lot of it's about fit, and a lot of it's about culture, and that's what Billy Napier, which I know they just signed 6 prospects from the state of Florida in his first recruiting cycle, but again, he's been there for 2 months. Can't really judge him necessarily on that, but the fact that he finished with a top 20 recruiting class here after, like I said, what was it, high 70s, low 80s, something ridiculous like that. That is just an incredible, incredible job, and I think he won a lot more recruiting battles than many people were going to give him credit for. He's turning this thing over with the transfer portal. We'll get to that in a moment, but they ain't done in that department either, according to Billy Napier. But that is 2 of the things he hit on during his National Signing Day presser on how much they plan to prioritize the state of Florida, and they just weren't able to do it given the timeline of coming in and all the, building the staff and building the recruiting board and building the transfers out. So much going on. It didn't work out this year to add a bunch of guys for in-state guys, but that will be the plan moving forward, as it should be under Billy Napier.
We've heard for decades that you got to take care of your backyard in Florida, in the state. Only six guys from the state. Do you feel like that's where you need to make inroads moving forward, or is that just kind of a 1 year kind of blip, given that you're from Louisiana and whatnot?
Yeah, no question. I think that it's a product of the circumstance. I think we were basically just had to go evaluate the players that were available, right? We looked all over the country, and I think we're pretty spread out in this class. So I think that's a product of the circumstances. Those are the players that, we felt like fit us from an evaluation standpoint, and then we had the resources to go get that accomplished. I think that's the one thing to remind ourselves of is, that Florida brand is strong, and it spread out and was able to do good work. But our approach is going to be inside out. There's no question. I think history would indicate that when Florida has a really good football team, it starts right here in our backyard and works out. So that's the approach that we will take, and certainly with the 23 group, which we've already started on, that'll be the mentality for sure.
Now, it's one thing to say this, but of course, Nick Saban, Kirby Smart, Dabo Swinney, just to name a few, they've been coming into the Sunshine State and rating it for talent for years and years. So, if Florida Gators are going to get back to being an SEC national championship playoff caliber team, it's got to start at home. So he's saying the right things. Now he's got to go out there and do it. But, if you're a Gator, you got to be thankful that at least Billy Napier believes in building from within the state, because that's what has empowered, in large part, some of these premier power programs across the country, is their ability to come into the state and steal top talent away from Florida, Florida State, and Miami. And that's got to end under Billy Napier's watch. Now, in addition to just breaking down the in-state class, Billy Napier, gave a kind of overarching thought on his first signing class at Florida. Again, not perfect. I love the analogy he uses here. I'm not a big baseball guy, but I see what he's saying here. No one's going to get every prospect they go after. You're not going to bat 1,000. That's never going to happen. Nick Saban, Kirby Smart, Jimbo Fisher, they don't bat 1,000. but it's about keeping a high average, and that is something that Billy Napier is fully aware of as he leads the charge here in Gainesville.
Hey, Coach. So obviously, with you having the early signing period and the winter portal, and now overall, what's your comfort level with where you're at based upon what you guys have gotten today to add on to what you got in the last couple of weeks?
Yeah, I don't think we're ever quite. I don't think I've ever batted 1,000 on signing day. You have to tell some of our young people in the building, hey, this is a little more like baseball here, right? We gotta, you gotta swing a lot, and make contact. And at the end of the day, we need 25 really good hits, right? So it requires a little bit of perspective, if that makes sense. So, and resiliency, I would say. So, you got to have a short memory. You got to move on to the next one. And certainly as a competitor, some of those things that maybe you learned as a competitor, you can apply to recruiting for sure. But, we feel a lot of needs. I'm confident in each individual player that we've added, what they bring to the team, certainly the jobs that we think they can do for our team. But we're never, I don't think anybody's ever completely satisfied with what happens. But, so far so good. We got a few more out there. And then, we got to get ready for this spring portal period that is to come.
Now, last thing when it comes to talent acquisition here, Billy Napier, he has really tackled this transfer portal, really adding pieces to a lot of key areas that Florida is currently lacking. And I know some of it's coming from connections he had at Louisiana and adding players that he knows can fit his system and have shined, albeit at a lower level. A lot of these guys may not come in and be, All-Americans day one, but if Billy Napier believes in their talent and what they can bring to his program, you got to have faith that, he's bringing guys in that can contribute year one. If nothing else, they're going to be a head start when it comes to knowing the system, knowing the expectations, whereas many of the players on the roster, they're going to be getting that first lesson here in a couple weeks when spring ball begins. And according to Billy Napier, more transfers will soon be coming to the Gators after spring football if there's guys in the portal that they really want to add, that will add value to this Florida Gators roster.
Coach, you've got 17 guys, counting your high school kids and your transfers, another 5 transfers. How many of the kids count back on last year, if you can tell us that? And then what does that mean for you going forward, for example, with transfers? Do you have a set number, like another 5, another 7 that you might add, and maybe another, how many high school kids you think you might add?
Sure. Well, the high school players obviously would be today, right? I think, and then there's kind of a balance. When we get to the spring, we obviously are going to have additional spots remaining where we could add players, right? So there's been movement on our roster. We've got plenty of options going forward. There's no cap. I don't necessarily see us hitting a cap when we get to the spring portal period, if that makes sense. But there's a delicate balance here, right, between the number of players that we add and then also hitting that 85 number. So a little bit of this is to be determined, right? It's always a big juggling act. It's a big math problem. You're adding and subtracting today. Certainly as we approach May 1st, there'll be more attrition. And really in the transition year with a new staff and kind of a new culture, I think that there's some things that come with that, both positive and negative. So I think it's a really good question, but I think a lot of that is to be determined based off of the rest of the day and then also any movement that we have later on in the semester.
Now, last thing, I just I had to add this because it went viral when they named this guy, but the game changer coordinator, people having fun with that on the social medias, mocking Billy Napier and the Florida Gators. Well, there's a reason they have that title, and he kind of broke it down here and explained it. That made a lot more sense. And I mean, at the end of the day, who the hell cares? Well, people poke fun. All that matters is the results on the field. But hey, at least they're trying something a little bit different. And I'm sure this is going to seem hokey to non-Florida fans, but I got no problem with it after hearing Billy Napier's explanation for it.
And then I also wanted to ask about one of the staff additions. What is a game changer coordinator? Can you kind of explain that term?
Yeah, so Coach Couch is the special teams coordinator. He's really the special teams analyst. And really, Coach Couch was with us at the previous stop. We call our special teams game changers, right? So, we're trying to create a game-changing play. We all know the power of an explosive play on special teams. It's kind of our way to create some urgency, some importance to that part of the game. I think it's the area of your team where you start building culture. It's a combination of offense and defensive players. Oftentimes, young players will get opportunities to contribute to the team first there, and then your walk-ons, can earn a niche on the team there as well. So, requires a lot of coordination, a lot of team effort. Coach Couch will be leading that area as an analyst off the field, and we're trying to change the game on special teams.
Hey, whatever it takes to win. Yeah, I mean, they call it the red zone. Obviously, we all know what that means. But when Green Bay, their new coaching staff came in, they started calling it the gold zone, based on Austin Powers. They love gold, right? It sounds cheesy. They quickly became #1 scoring offense in the red zone. So, hey, whatever it takes to motivate these players, motivate this program to rise above where they were at. That's the whole point. That's, sometimes these culture changes are met pretty harshly. We're seeing that on the plains right now, but sometimes it doesn't have to be a complete 180 of what you're doing. It can just be a slight change. It can be an emphasis on a special teams, like Billy Napier saying here, will be put into his Florida Gator program. That is, of course, something Florida fans know well, that Urban Meyer put so much attention on, and it paid off in a huge, huge way, led to a lot of big wins for the Gators back in the day, and hopefully they'll do that once again under Billy Napier with their game changer. That's what it's all about. Special teams is about changing the game, and the most iconic play, I think, in SEC history, the kick six. Again, special teams, game-changing play. So, hey, I'm buying into this. If it works for the Florida Gators, I'm buying into it. All right, so hey, that's all we got on this episode of the show. Like I said, plenty more content from several other SEC coaches that happened over vacation. We're just now getting to it. I don't want to just throw them all together. I'm really trying to focus, segments on each team. And of course, we'll keep up what's going on the plains, because who knows? I'm trying to get some more guests lined up for this week. So hopefully that comes through. But hey, stay with us here. I'm trying to keep this thing daily for as long as we can. As long as we got the content coming through, we're going to be able to keep bringing it to you all off season long. So I really do appreciate all the support from each and every one of you. I appreciate everybody continue to tuning in, and we're trying to keep this thing 5 days a week, and we'll continue to bring you the SEC content all off season long. But that's going to do it for this episode of the show. Catch you on the next one.